This is Robert Kraft, and I'm your host on SNN.Network. And joining me right now is Robert Berman. He is the president and CEO of Rekor Systems, Inc., publicly traded company. The symbol is REKR on NASDAQ. Robert, good to see you. How you doing?
You too, Robert. Good to see you. How's everything?
Oh, we're recording this one on Friday, the April 23rd. So it's been a week, right? Been a week of this event.
We had a great time at the conference, a lot of meetings, and it was fun and met some great people.
Awesome. I'm really happy to hear that. Well, let's give the people a little bit of what they want here. You know, we last did an interview together we published on July 30th, 2020. It's been I guess almost 10 months, I guess 11 months since then.
Been about 10 months.
Just about that.
A lot has happened. So when we talked last time, we had just cleaned up our balance sheet, converted our debt, sold off the last of our non-core assets, and we're able to put all of our effort in our technology. And that's exactly what we did through the remainder of 2020 and got ourselves in a position to scale in 2021. And our focus, as you know, Robert, has been on intelligent roadways, smart cities, being at the nexus of the IoT and, just everything that's happening out on the roadway. And we've been successful in getting two phenomenally, important statewide contracts, one in Oklahoma to help the state of Oklahoma reduce the number of uninsured motor vehicles on their roadways, which is a wonderful thing. And the second in North Dakota to help the North Dakota Parks Department manage their parks through using video analytics and our technology. So those are really big steps for us because I think when we spoke last, I had mentioned that our focus was on the single system with multiple missions for larger governments, state agencies to be fractionalized and used across the state for everything from traffic analytics to public safety and infrastructure and revenue. So we finally made it there. And 2021 looks to be like a really exciting year for Rekor's growth.
Absolutely. We're going to get to that last point too. But, it's interesting when you have so many different potential verticals you can go into. How do you zone in and figure out, okay, this is where, because as you just said, those two customers right there are completely different, right? I mean, and with completely different goals, so how do you zone in on the right opportunities and going after it?
So, everything that we've done over the last 2 years has been a means to an end. So we've had announced a lot of different strategic partnerships and contracts for different things. As you know, we have about 35 different solutions. We deliver software on an e-commerce platform where you can buy it with a credit card. We have tightly bundled hardware software packages. And we do business in both the government and commercial sectors and have customers in over 80 countries. But the goal always was to roll all of that technology up into a technology stack that created an ecosystem platform that we call Rekor One, where that same system could be used by different parties for different reasons. So when you talk about Oklahoma, it's the same system that's deployed in North Dakota. They're just different uses. The interesting thing is that should Oklahoma decide to do some of what North Dakota is doing, they can do it with the system that we've already installed. So it's just another application, another layer of software, another SaaS product, and the same thing in North Dakota. So, that's been the company's goal. And, I always say to investors, there are a lot of companies, including us out there that use, words like smart mobility and intelligent roadways and, smart cities. But the truth of the matter is that industry is so young. And it's coming now. And we think that the platform we developed is going to serve it well. And when we get a chance to talk a little bit about what's going on here in the U.S. with the infrastructure bill, you'll understand why.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. It's like when investors hear the buzzwords, like, oh, you're doing that. You have a solution in the buzzwords. Like, at the same time, you're like, yes, but we also want to say like, well, this is what we're doing. This is this kind of solutions we're real, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's not, oh, it's AI or it's blockchain or, whatever. It has to have a purpose, right? So, we started with the idea that we could provide all the solutions and actionable intelligence that our various customers would need by using video analytics. And that's the choice we made. And that of course is done with machine learning and AI. But that's one little piece of our technology stack. So our technology includes edge processing, which is a fairly new thing. And then how we distribute, share, and store data that comes to our system so that we can anonymize it, right? If you think about the PII data, like there's always people saying privacy, you know, I don't want you looking at my plate or my car or whatever. But if you anonymize that and you know that it's an electric vehicle, then that's information that's helpful to somebody. They don't need to know whose car it is and whose plate it is, right? So, you know, the idea is that you can turn the primary data, which has the PII stuff in it, into big data. And that's really what Rekor is. It's a big data company, right? It's a big data company that is just found a way to just ingest this enormous amount of data and then translate it through a variety of different applications for a variety of customers, but using the same system, right? You don't have to go out there and put up another sensor, another camera. You just use the same thing, right? So that's what the company's all about. And that's where things are headed, right? Think about it. Let's talk for a second about what we're doing in Oklahoma. So we're helping the state reduce the number of uninsured motor vehicles on the road. So we catch them on the front end through video analytics. We reconcile that against a real-time database where we're tied into the insurance industry to know whether or not the vehicle's insured. And we drive them into a diversion program to get the legal liability off their back so they don't lose their license and other things to make matters worse. And it's a great program and it's working well. We launched it in January, but it goes hand in hand with things like the same system can do expired tags, okay, or other minor traffic infractions. So think about what just happened in Minnesota, Robert, okay? An officer pulled somebody over because they had an expired tag, okay? She gets to the car, there's a little bit of a confrontation. She pulls out what she thinks is her taser, and she pulls out her revolver, and she shoots this person and kills them, right? Horrible. That interaction never had to happen. So this is the 21st century. Why do we need to have police pulling people over, you know, because they have an expired tag or because their vehicle's uninsured? Let technology deal with that, right? So, you know, that's kind of what's happening with the narrative of what's going on politically out there.
Right.
So,
Well, Robert, I wanted to hit on something you brought up was the infrastructure bill, the proposed infrastructure bill.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that proposed infrastructure bill might affect Rekor in any way?
Good, great question. So, you know, I think we talked about it last time. We have a fairly strong government affairs team, and the gentleman that runs it and I have been working together for 3 decades. And he's just great. So we've got lobbyists and assets working in a variety of different states. Oklahoma's one. We've got Texas and Florida looking like they're going to pass bills that mirror what we're doing in Oklahoma fairly shortly here. But we also have people up on Capitol Hill, trying to learn about what the administration is thinking about in the infrastructure bill. So infrastructure is not necessarily just, you know, the road or the bridge or the tunnel. Infrastructure systems as well, right? And, you know, in large part, I think that this administration is thinking about emissions reduction, green corridors. So, you know, green corridors like an HOV lane, right, for commuters. So you can drive in this lane if you've got a hybrid or an electric vehicle, right? So it's a way of reducing emissions. So when you ask the professional bill writers that work on the Hill for the staffers, for, you know, the congressional leaders, how are you going to do that? And they can't answer you. And I think their best thought is that technology and the private sector will figure out how to do that. And the good news is that's exactly what Rekor can do. We can, through Rekor One, the platform that I mentioned, we can do everything from measuring emissions to classifying and counting vehicles. So electric vehicles, hybrids, tractor trailers, buses, you know, pickup trucks, and whatever else there might be, providing real-time traffic analytics for traffic studies, doing weight and tonnage, which is how every municipality determines whether or not they're going to repair, replace, or maintain a roadway. So think about it. They're going to pass an infrastructure bill and give all this money to these municipalities based on their needs. How do they prove their needs? How do they do that initial study to say, here's where we are, this is what we need? right? So the use of technology like REKor and others is how they're going to do that on the front end. And then on the back end, you have to be able to enforce it. So, that's how REKor fits into that scheme. And we're really excited about it because it's about time. It's about time that they, upgrade the infrastructure. And, there are other things in there that they're going to do that aren't necessarily bricks and mortar either. Like we've all been to the DMV, right? And if you change your license from one, state to another, I mean, it's a nightmare. You got to walk in there with all these different pieces of paper when you can go to a gas pump, put a credit card in or a debit card, and it knows that it's Robert Kraft because you put your zip code in. Well, if a gas pump can do that, I would assume the DMV can do it as well. So they're going to start upgrading all that infrastructure, and they're going to tie that into what's happening on the roadways and make it more efficient to manage the roadways and do things like reduction of emissions. And I also believe, and this is my bet and I'll make a prediction, I think that they will provide resources for contactless law enforcement, right? To get the police out from under having to deal with traffic stops related to, somebody's got a bunch of parking tickets or, expired tags or registration compliance issues or other things. It's a good thing, right? Let technology do it. So
yep,
it's exciting.
Absolutely. All right. So before I let you go here, from what you can tell us, I asked you the same question in our last interview, but love to get the new answer now. What would you say are some of the company's value catalysts or 1 to 2 things that investors should look for moving forward?
So we're about to file our Q, and this will be the first time investors will actually be able to read a public document and understand the company because of the transition we went through. We've segmented our revenues. We've made it easier for everybody to follow REKor. I think that I would watch for the growth of the use of the REKor One platform. As you know, we do have like 30 some odd solutions. We sell products a lot of different ways. Look for the bigger stuff. Look for a contract that replicates Oklahoma in a state like Florida or Texas. And look for other uses of the platform that we have in North Dakota and Oklahoma for different purposes. Like in Oklahoma, they've already talked to us about doing registration compliance with the same system. So I think that's what folks should look for from REKor this year. And if we break through with that, then the sky's the limit because it is a huge market. It's global and it's going to happen here. It's going to happen everywhere. And it's exciting.
With that, Robert, where can our audience go and get more information about REKor Systems?
Well, you can always go to our website, right? www.rekor.ai. And we've got an updated investor deck there. And you can always reach out to our IR department. And we're pretty informal and we don't mind talking to investors. I spent half my life talking to investors, but I frankly am from the school of, having informed investors is a good thing. And it seems to have worked well for us. So, communicating with the people that support us. Look, after all, investors give us the opportunity to keep growing the company and do what we're doing. So, look at the website, look at the deck. If you have other questions, reach out and we'll do the best we can to get back to you and answer them. And you're going to find us at your next conference as well, and hopefully other conferences. And I look forward to meeting as many people as I can and telling them the REKor story because I love to tell it.
Very good. Well, Robert, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Good luck. Stay safe. And I look forward to our next update.
You too, Rob. Be well.